Welcome back to the Kosi Arsenal channel. My name is Kosi. Welcome back to a brand new video. It has been a very busy week for Arsenal, and this week is even going to be busier in terms of Arsenal transfers and signing players. Last week, we saw a couple of deals confirmed, and this week we shall see a couple of other deals progress, especially on the centre forward. But in terms of departures, Gabriel Martinelli is one to look at, as FC Bayern are lining up a bid for Gabriel Martinelli after missing out on a couple of targets, including Nico Williams. Should Arsenal sell Gabriel Martinelli to Bayern FC? And if you're selling, how much should we be asking for? But Gabriel Martinelli is a big target, a strong target for Bayern this week. We are also talking Thomas Partey. We are also talking a couple of other deals that Arsenal are working on right from last week into this week. So let's start off with the big story, obviously, of the week, and that has been Martin Zubimendi landing in London and arriving at the Arsenal headquarters to get all the formalities done. That is the story that we have been running with last week. It's done. It is dusted. Fabrizio says it was never in doubt, and the Athletic are also reporting that this is a deal Arsenal considered done a while ago. It was considered done ages ago. However, Arsenal have not stopped on Martin Zubimendi. Last week as well, we agreed and we finalized the deal for Arsenal's new goalkeeper, Kepa Arrizabalaga. That is the second signing of the summer, unless something changes and maybe Kepa becomes the third signing of the summer. But at the moment, Arsenal are looking to announce Martin Zubimendi either this week or in the coming week, which will be the 1st of July. And then Kepa Arrizabalaga will be announced as a new Arsenal signing, as the second signing. Arsenal will pay 5 million for the services of Kepa, and we will pay 65 million euros, actually 66 million euros for the services of Martin Zubimendi. So those are the two deals that we can say on this podcast, on this channel, concretely, they're done, dusted, and sealed. But there is a third deal. There's a third deal that has been making a lot of news and making a lot of rounds in the media, especially from Portugal, and that is the Viktor Gyökeres deal. Now, last week, this is what we got on the Viktor Gyökeres deal, and this is what we expect to happen this week. Number one, Viktor Gyökeres, according to Alex Crook, told closer family and friends that he's going to be joining Arsenal this summer. He doesn't want to join Manchester United. He doesn't want to join Juve. He's not interested in joining all these other clubs that are actually chasing him down. His dream is to play for Arsenal, and he's going to wait and wait and wait for that agreement between Arsenal and Sporting. Still, in the last week, Viktor Gyökeres saw us discuss personal terms with his management, and it is getting a little bit better. Apart from those stories that were coming out that he wants 300k per week, it is now apparently very evident that the player would be even okay to settle for around 130 to 150,000 euros per week. So there is a very, very big development in the Viktor Gyökeres story. Is he going to be the striker Arsenal go for? There is still a very big question there, because again, Sesko is a player Mikel Arteta really likes a lot, but at the moment, Gyokerez is still a very big candidate. Now, yesterday, a story came in from John Cross from the Mirror. I mean, he calls himself John Cross Mirror. So, but he's John Cross, right? Reporting from the Mirror. And he was actually saying that Andre Bata is locked in talks with Sporting to try and get the deal done for Viktor Gyökeres. And this is being caused with the presence of transfer frustrations on the RB Leipzig end and on the Benjamin Sesko end. And Arsenal looking at the Viktor Gyökeres story and the Viktor Gyökeres deal as one that could be done a little bit earlier, as Arsenal want to do a couple of deals quickly and very, very urgently. So Gyökeres looks like at the moment he's the one. As we come from last week going into a new one, it looks like Viktor Gyökeres is leading the race to join Arsenal. The price is a little bit reduced. Of course, last week we saw Sporting come out and announce their agreement with the player and his management, and they said, listen, we're not going to sell him for 100 million euros. We're going to sell him for anything between 50 to 70 million pounds. So we are waiting to see what is going to come out of that end. However, last week saw a change in the tide on the Benjamin Sesko deal. Remember, before last week, what we had was Benjamin Sesko was the priority, personal terms not a problem, and Arsenal willing to pay the 80 to 100 million euros for the services of Benjamin Sesko. And Mikel Arteta and the data team at Arsenal looked at Benjamin Sesko as one of the best strikers to become in the next 3 years. And Arsenal are willing to lay it all down and just pay the money. Now, that has changed. According to a few sources, last week, we got news on the Benjamin Sesko deal as one that is proving to be a little bit difficult. One, Arsenal are unwilling to pay the 70 million pounds that RB Leipzig are asking for. That is about 88 million euros and above. Arsenal saying that is too much. Arsenal are willing to pay about 78 million euros for the player. That would be in the region of 65 to 64 million pounds. But for Arsenal to rise until 80 million euros to 100 million euros, that is still a big problem. Also, we saw Benjamin Sesko's demands become a little bit complicated because the player is asking for Arsenal to put a release clause in his contract. And that changes everything when it comes to the striker landscape, because we know Arsenal are interested in two players right at the moment. Oli Watkins is just a faraway option. So the two players that Arsenal are focusing on is Benjamin Sesko and Viktor Gyökeres. If Sesko is asking for a release clause and is asking for unimaginable wages that Arsenal do not want to pay, then that pushes the deal closer to Gyokerez than to Benjamin Sesko. But still last week, we saw in links to Newcastle's Alexander Isak coming back. Liverpool, Arsenal very much interested in the services of Alexander Isak. But Newcastle quickly brushed that off by saying anyone who is interested in signing Alexander Isak should come to the table with 150 million to start negotiations. That is the sign of a club that don't want to sell. And this was made very clear by The Athletic when they reported around at the end of May, at the end of the season, that Newcastle didn't want to sell. And now that they have UEFA Champions League, Alexander Isak is content with where he is. He's not going to move an inch. So if you want him, you're either going to pay the money that Newcastle are asking for, or you're just going to walk away, because 150 million pounds for Alexander Isak in a busy summer, like Arsenal have, you have to spend about 250 million on about 7 targets. Liverpool as well, they're not doing that deal. So it looks like Alexander Isak is also going to stay put, but the links are back. And you never know, maybe Arsenal are quiet all this time, trying to cook on the Newcastle end to try and sign the big man Alexander Isak. But away from the striker talk, we have also had a couple of departures, especially in the rumors. Let's start off with the big one on Gabriel Martinelli, because this one arrived in on Sunday, and it was confirmed that Bayern Munich are preparing a bid to sign Gabriel Martinelli. Now, of course, we don't know how much Bayern are trying to put on the table for this deal, but what we know is Bayern are in the market for a new left winger. They've tried Mitoma, they've tried Nico Williams, they've tried a couple of options, and it has just not happened yet for them, right? But I think out there is a player that Bayern absolutely like. They might not be willing to spend hundreds of millions, so a player like Gabriel Martinelli is a very, very good option. So according to CF Bayern, they're saying Arsenal could actually get a bid from Bayern to sign Gabriel Martinelli. My opinion on this one is very, very difficult to digest for you, because for me, I would say this. If Arsenal are getting 50 million, like we were told, Arsenal value the player at about 50 million. If we are getting about 50 million and above, right? If you're getting 50 million and above for the services of Gabriel Martinelli, I'm sorry, this is where I say sell and upgrade. But it has to be under clear conditions. There must be a satisfying price and a satisfying fee, right? Don't sell him for 40 million. Don't sell him for 30 million. I know I was desperate a while ago when I said we could sell Gabriel Martinelli for 40 million. But to a club like Bayern, they're going to turn this guy into a machine, especially in the German Bundesliga, where you have a lot of spaces to run into. Gabriel Martinelli is going to become a much dangerous weapon. So 50, 60, 70 million, anywhere, anywhere around there, we can sell. The second condition, Arsenal have got to upgrade. I don't want to see Martinelli sold. I don't want to see what I saw last summer. Because what we saw last summer was Arsenal selling Emil Smith-Rowe, loaning out Fabio Vieira, and then selling Edin Ketia. And who did we bring in? Absolutely no upgrade to those profiles. If you're not going to upgrade on Martinelli, please and please keep him. Do not touch him. It's okay. We understand. But if there's going to be an upgrade, maybe Rafael, maybe Karo Mitoma, maybe Mohamed Kudus, maybe Rodrigo goes from Real Madrid. It's painful. It's difficult. But I would take the 50 million. I would take the money and upgrade on Gabriel Martinelli. And of course, Bayern are only trying to bid for Martinelli because they know that Arsenal are trying to sign an upgrade on the left wing. We're looking for a big winger. This has been reported by the Athletic, Fabrizio, and also John Cross from the Mirror again yesterday, confirming that Arsenal are looking at Rodrigo as a #1 target. And they're also looking at Rodrigo as one of those players that could come in and eat up the budget while they sign kind of a cheaper striker like Viktor Gyökeres. So at the moment, Martinelli is on the radar for Bayern. They have not made any bids. They're trying to sign Nico Williams, but Nico is not interested. Could Gabriel Martinelli go to Bayern? Should we sell? Let me know in the comment box below. Still in the previous week, we saw Thomas Partey come up as one of the players that are actually leaving Arsenal. Arsenal have given him a new contract deal. He has actually not turned it down yet, but he's not interested in taking a pay cut at the club. And although I might be a big Arsenal fan, I'm also a big a big Partey fan. And I'm asking myself, what has Partey done to deserve, a pay cut at Arsenal? Why is he taking a pay cut? He's been consistent last season. He's had a very, very good season. He's been very reliable. Why is he taking a pay cut in order to stay at Arsenal? But it has been explained very well. Thomas Partey is now seen as a bench player, as a squad option, and Arsenal don't want to spend a lot of money in terms of wages on Thomas Partey. Barcelona is one of the clubs interested, but also both of the giants in Turkey, that is Galatasaray and Fenerbahce, are very much interested in the services of Thomas Partey. We are hearing talk of Atletico Madrid, and we are also hearing that Saudi Arabia are very much available for the services of Partey if he decides to move that end. It is not yet conclusive, it is not yet done, but Partey could be on his way out. Arsenal are looking at a couple of other targets: Lucien Agume, Christian Nogard, Morgan Rogers, Morgan Gibbs-White, Warren Zaïre-Emery. Arsenal could be looking to replace Partey like for like, or reinvent the wheel by signing a player that is quite different to Partey, but also contributes to that midfield. If anything happens, I will definitely let you know. Now, on the winger end, that is where Arsenal have actually not been winning in quite a sense, because you look at the striker targets. Arsenal progressing on the striker end. We have signed Martin Zubimendi. We have signed a new goalkeeper. We'll talk about the centre-back situation, but Arsenal progressing on the centre-back end as well as the left-back end. But in terms of the winger situation, that is still very, very far away from us saying it's about to be done. So where are we on signing a new winger? Well, where we are is Arsenal are waiting on Rodrigo, and according to the Mirror, Arsenal are gonna have to wait a little bit longer because Madrid have not yet made up their mind on the sale of Rodrigo. But they're also not ruling out the opportunity of getting 77 million from Arsenal. They're also not ruling out the possibility of selling Rodrigo this summer. So what happened last week is that Rodrigo was played on the right-hand side of the attack by Xabi Alonso in the Club World Cup, and he only played 65 minutes. In the last game that Madrid have played, he actually didn't even start, Adagula starting in his position. And many people have actually speculated that maybe this is the end for Rodrigo, this and that. The player is still very quiet about his stance and about his preference, but the much we know at the moment is Arsenal are willing and they will be waiting for that opportunity to arrive. Arsenal also talked to West Ham about Kudus, but the price is too much, and last week that is where we are on the winger situation. Yes, there are a few other targets that we could talk about. Noni Madueke, but that's just interest. The likes of Bakayoko, that is still plain interest. The only two players that Arsenal have actually talked to or want to progress on is Mohamed Kudus at West Ham and Rodrigo goes at Madrid, and Rodrigo is the priority. Well, on the defensive end, Arsenal have made some progress. Last week, what happened is that Arsenal were in talks with Gerard Hartow's camp, and we offered him a 6-year deal if he wants to join Arsenal. Arsenal are also in talks with Ajax, who have told us that 50 million euros could actually get the deal done for Gerard Hartow. What's going to happen this week? Of course, we'll do a video explaining what is expected out of Arsenal this week, what is going to be happening on the striker end, what's going to be happening on the defensive end. Could we see a new signing apart from Kepa and Zubimendi? There is a very big possibility that we actually